Growth doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from learning. And today I am going to teach you something that is so important, that is such an important part of our life that sometimes we ignore, that is such a strong request, it's such a strong need within our own life. And that skill is emotional intelligence. Hi, I'm Aslam Khatri. Welcome to the Growth Gap. We all have hopes, needs, aspirations, and we all have goals. We all want to do one step better than what we did yesterday. It's my mission to help you bridge that gap, that growth gap that will make you better today than you were yesterday. Today, our discussion is going to be on emotional intelligence. Why emotional intelligence is so important. You see, in leadership, it creates trust and motivation. In relationships, it creates empathy, understanding, and working together. At work, it creates a teamwork. It creates how we relate to the other people that work with us. And on a personal level, it is something so important that helps us keep going in self-mastery and in a great self-mental state. You see, the emotional intelligence is, as it's called, it's something that helps us understand what is going on given the situation. How do we make a decision given what decision we have to make? How do we go from point A to point B, and how do we perceive it? How's our mind looking at it, and how is our own personality that is working with it? You see, everything we do in our life, it's based on a society. We work with people. And because we work with people, everybody has their own conception. Everybody has their own perception. Everybody understands things in their own way. So how do we work? Where do we fit ourselves in? Is it something where we are in a wartime? Or is it something that we have much cooler heads that prevail so that we can find a common ground for all of us to grow? And that is emotional intelligence. You see, emotional intelligence is a human operating system. It basically keeps us within the situation. It keeps us in the situation. It keeps us as to how we are going to react, as to how we're going to continue to move forward with other people, whether we are leaders or we are co-workers. It is all about as to how we perceive ourselves with other people, as to how our relationship work with the other people, and as to how we react to a situation that is in front of us. And it is with emotional intelligence that we make the decision based on the information that's available to us, but also based on our own mental capacity, of our own intelligence, of our own feeling at that particular moment. So Dr. Coleman, who wrote a book on emotional intelligence, and he talks about 5 components that make up the emotional intelligence. And the first one is self-awareness. At any given point, we must have a control into what is happening at that particular moment. And that is the self-mastery. That is the self-awareness, knowing what are our limits, knowing what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses. Once we understand that, then it makes it easier for us to navigate a situation by either being involved in it, extracting ourselves out of it, or just letting somebody else make a decision. But we must understand what is within ourselves. What is our self-awareness, which is the most important thing. Then the second thing is self-regulation. Now, as much as we're aware of what's going on, how do we react to it? Are we regulating ourselves, or are we just letting it go? You see, the same situation can happen to one person and they would have a different reaction, and we may have a different reaction based on our understanding, based on what's going on, based on what happened to us today. So self-regulation, that means checking in with ourselves. That means letting ourselves know what is happening. Letting ourselves know what is happening today, right now, within us. See? So you have self-awareness, you have self-regulation, and then there is the empathy. The empathy is, you see, we get so coiled up in our own perceptions that we ignore what other person is saying or thinking. So it's very important to have the empathy, very important to understand where the other person is coming from. Because either you're in a relationship, you're in a business, or you're working, whatever you're doing, you're always going to be working with the other people. And it's your emotional intelligence, it's your EQ that works with it, that gets you to work and work in a harmony with the society. Number 4, it's motivation. What motivates us to do what we do? What motivates us to get up in the morning and go to accomplish something that we want to do? So motivation is what navigates our feelings and giving the situation. How do we regulate that? How do we work within the situation that is given to us? So motivation, how can we turn that particular situation, whatever the situation is, how can we work our motivation? How can we work to our benefit? But also looking as to how that works with the other people. Which brings me to the 5th one, which is really the social skills. You see, every society has certain social skills. So we have to have those, and we have to create certain social skills as to how we are going to interact with other people. When we put all these things together, when we put together the self-awareness, the self-regulation, the empathy, the work relationship, all that together creates social skills. And these are the social skills as to how are we going to react with our people, with our peers, with our employers, with our employees, with our team members, the people that we need to motivate. But before we motivate other people, we must motivate ourselves. We must have that capacity. We must have that emotional capacity that says that we need to understand what is happening and how are we going to make a decision based on what is happening right now. You know, so many times in the older days when I used to have my small clients where I felt that people would, for lack of any other words, lose it. There would be people who would get very angry given a situation, because they will be looking at it from the perception of what happened to them in the past, not what is happening right now. And that is something that is so important. That emotional intelligence is so important to understand what is happening at this particular moment. See, remember, the leadership, it's not about just being in control or having control, but the leadership is about understanding the circumstances, understanding the situation, understanding where we are at this particular moment. So the great leaders, they don't just lead or give orders or give commands, but they also work with people. And to work with people, you need all the skills, all the components that make an emotional intelligence. You see, when we have IQ, we learn a lot. We learn from the books, we learn from our colleges, we go to the universities. That creates a great IQ. But EQ, the emotional intelligence itself, that does not happen. That is not something that's learned, but that is something that we develop within ourselves. It's a muscle. It's a muscle that develops. It's a muscle that develops on a daily situation, on a daily basis, that we, as long as we're aware, once we become self-aware, that make ourselves better, 5 seconds, 5 minutes better than yesterday, in calmness, in trying to create a situation where we can give ourselves time to think about what's going on. You see, it's a very basic thing. And it's not something that somebody can just instinct on you. But you need to understand that. So self-emotion, or EQ, or emotional intelligence itself, it is so important for us to lead, for us to be in partnership, for us to be in a relationship, for us, even for ourselves. So I hope you understood what we are trying to teach you in this subject, because emotional intelligence it's not science, it's not art. It is something that you develop within yourself. It is something that comes with awareness. It's something that comes with sitting down and understanding the situation. And I hope you enjoyed it. And please give it to somebody. Forward it to somebody who can use this information. And please subscribe to my channel. I'm Aslam Khatri. Till next time, wishing you goodbye.